So we're going to go, I told you we're going to stay in these 15 verses a bit, and today we're going to look again at verse 11 through 15 in chapter 10 of Matthew. So again, it's Matthew chapter 10, verses 11 through 15. And we'll start right here with 11. Whatever city or village you enter, inquire who is worthy in it, and stay at his house until you leave that city. As you enter the house, give it your greeting. If the house is worthy, give it your blessing of peace. But if it is not worthy, take back your blessing of peace. Whoever does not receive you, nor heed your words, as you go out of that house or that city, shake the dust off your feet. Truly I say to you, it will be more tolerable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city. Oh, really good feelings coming out of that one. And it really should be. That last phrase was really, that last little bit was really sobering, and yet the rest of it should have been very exciting. So let me repeat again for you what the purpose of these instructions are. We see that Jesus takes disciples, 12 of them, and makes them apostles. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about that. Gives us 12 names of 12 men that he chose to make them apostles. And he gave them his authority to cast out demons and to heal the sick and preach the kingdom. And he sent them out. Now, as he's sending them out, he gives them instructions for the sending. And these are the instructions. Over these next many weeks, probably, because it's quite a bit of instructions, he's going to give them for the sending out of 12 disciples changed into apostles. And we talked a little bit about what an apostle is, and it has not changed. An apostle is someone who teaches the culture of Jesus, who teaches how to change yourself from living like whatever you've lived like. These people lived like Jews. And they came as apostles to teach them to live like Christians, people who accept Jesus. They go out into the Greek cities to teach them from their Greek religions and their Greek society and their Greek customs, and teach them Christian customs, Christian culture. If you believe that the one has come, you need to live this way. That was an apostle. And so he's giving these instructions. Now, we'll say this over and over and over. There are apostles who are called by God. If you read the epistles, everyone who claims them to be an apostle says something very similar to this. Peter, an apostle of the Lord Jesus Christ by the will of God. Chosen, called. God chose them. We just saw him choose them in the previous chapter. Other people go out in apostolic authority, but it's all the same thing. Every Christian has the right to teach the culture of Jesus Christ. He tells Christians, he says, if you believe, at the end of this book, he says, if you believe, you'll do these things, casting out demons, drinking poison, and not dying. There'll be this protection surrounding you if you are Christian, if you are a believer. He defines believer by these instructions. And so for the next few minutes, or next few weeks, even months, we're going to be talking about the instructions that Jesus gives the 12 men when he sends them out. So when he says, if you go into a city, he's not really talking to you and me specifically. He's directing it to these 12 men, but then Matthew shares it with us as if for all ages, you and I will have the same benefits if we follow these instructions. Do you follow that? Does that make sense? Okay, so last week he told them to go out and preach the kingdom, and whoever you come upon, heal their sicknesses, cast out their demons, and tell them the kingdom of heaven is here. That's because they've been waiting, these Jewish people have been waiting for centuries and centuries and many, many centuries. 35, some estimate, 50, some estimate. I mean, this is like a lot of time waiting for this promise to come true that one is coming. One is coming. The angels came and told the shepherds, the one has come. The wise men traveling from the east saw the star and read the signs, the one has come. The King of all kings, the Prince of all peace is here. The King is here. The kingdom of the King is here. And when you go, I've given you this authority.
Right.
And when you go, do these things. Let me just start again. Whatever city or village you enter. Does that sound specific?
Yes.
It's not. Whatever city. Guess what I live in? A whatever city. He didn't say go to New York, so I got to go to New York to get it. Whatever city an apostle comes to, whatever city the message comes to, the message is still the same. The King is here. The kingdom of heaven has finally come for you. What will you do with it? It says, when you go to the city, inquire who is worthy in it and stay at his house until you leave that city. What I'd like to talk to you about this morning is this worthiness. I have conversations on a regular basis with people and have to ask them about who you're going to be with. What are you going to put your life into? Who are you going to surround yourself with? Who are you going to join? What do you have there that is worthy? My answer is almost always the same. The answer I receive is almost always the same. God is there. Well, I always come back with, wasn't he here? When you were making all the wrong choices, wasn't he there? And the right choices you made, wasn't he there? Is he where you are? Is he able to be there wherever you are? So that doesn't really give a reason why you have to go there. Who are you going to be with is really the question. Are they worthy? What are you surrounding yourself with? Teenagers. When you're raising teenagers, let me tell you, today this is probably less a question people ask about when they're raising teenagers. But in my day, there were commercials on television about who are your kids hanging out with. Every sitcom, who are you? Bad apple spoils the whole bunch was something I heard 1,000 times in my life. In the group, am I going to be the bad apple? Am I the influence? I remember one day when the detectives knocked on my door. I'd never been in trouble a day in my life. My mom opens the door and can't believe her sweet little boy is who they're talking about, lighting fires all over the neighborhood. But how old is a 7th grader? Anybody know? 12. I was the younger guy in my class, so I was on the 12. So I've been lighting fires at 17. I've been lighting fires all over the neighborhood, and I'd lit one. But what it was I went out with these guys that were my friends, and I said, heck no, I'm not lighting a fire. You get in trouble for doing that. And they started ridiculing me as a chicken. So I did it. Who do you hang out with? I would have been way better off not hanging out with those guys. I remember the day I lit this fire in California in dry grass in the summertime. It just started taking off up this hill like a forest fire, And they luckily saved the houses up the hill. But man, I was freaking out. When is the sirens going to go off, That thing is going now. I was a good kid. But one bad apple is all it takes, who you hang out with. And man, it didn't work out good for me in that situation. Yeah, so I wanted to go hang out with other people, There's many times in my life where I was the bad apple. But I think what really happened is I didn't decide based on who's worthy. And I think apostles do that, and everybody doesn't like it. But I think everybody should do that. I think everybody should decide who they're hanging out with. I think you should decide to hang out with those who are worthy. And what's this worthy mean? Jesus said, when you enter, whatever city you enter, you decide who's worthy. That's what he said. Inquire who is worthy in it and stay at his house until you leave that city. Find worthy ones and stay with them. What does worthy mean? The base word, worth, is kind of like worship. It's kind of like the worth of something. But that's not what this word means, worthy. It's more like, it's deserving and suitable. It's due a reward. So someone that's worthy is due my friendship. They're due my trust. So someone would be trustworthy. You ever heard that word? Or this word is real easy. It twists real easy with the word un in front of it. Unworthy. That means they're not somebody worthy of my trust, of my imitation. Does that make sense to you? Yeah. You follow that? So Jesus says, inquire who is worthy, and who everybody thinks is worthy, stay with them for the duration. Now the story goes on, though, because the guy might not be worthy just because they all said he was. So the story goes on. It says, if he proves to be worthy, give him your peace. It says, give it your greeting first, greet it, and then give it your blessing of peace. Did you read that? Yep. Put 12 up there. As you enter the house, give it your greeting. If the house is worthy, give it your blessing of peace. But if it is not worthy, take back your blessing of peace. Whose blessing? This is really important that you learn this, and I know you don't have to be listening to me, but I hope you are. When you walk with God and He gives you His authority, He expects you to look at what's worthy and look at what's not worthy and find what's worthy and stay with that. Wow. And give blessing and give greeting, welcome into our group. Paul the Apostle called it a body. Welcome into my association where we look out for one another. I think if you're hanging out with a group of people and they start to endanger your life, you want to say, I'm not hanging out with you anymore. Because you're not the only one going to be harmed by this. Anybody, you get me? But what if you're hanging out with people who bless your life? Who greet you and give you their blessing and give you their peace. They bring their peace into your circle, making everything more peaceful. What if they give you their peace? Would you want to maybe hang out with them more? What if they destroy your peace? Would you maybe want to pull back? What Jesus is telling these apostles is, stay at the house for the whole time, but take your peace back. Take your blessing back. And I'm always thinking, whose blessing? Whose peace? Yours. Now, here's the $1,000,000 question. Do you have any to give? Do you have any to take back? Do you know that you walk in this authority? That where you go, what you are is transferred. If you give it, they get it. If you take it, they don't get it. Did you know that we as Christians, we as people in the culture of Jesus Christ, it's different than before. See, they didn't have this in their society for all these centuries. This is a new thing given by the arrival of the one, the King of Kings is here. It's interesting. He tells everybody, those that are going to face Sodom and Gomorrah-like circumstances and those that are going to not face, he tells them all. The King is here. In other words, you had the King. You didn't have to lose. You had the King. That's why you won. He gave you His blessing. He gave you His greeting. He welcomed you in. He gave you His peace. Go give. And freely you have received, he just finished saying. Freely give it away. Amen. So what's the source of your peace and your blessing and your greeting? He has greeted you. He has received you in. He has given you peace. Now give it away. And determine who's worthy of it. Who's worthy to receive this and not squander this? I think sometimes we forget in 21st century Christianity that God cares about the squandering of His resources. You say you believe, Jesus says later, you say you believe, you do well to believe, but Satan believes and he will perish. I think we forget these kinds of things. I know He came, I know He died on a cross, I know He brought the Holy Spirit. I need no man to tell me. Well, He's telling these people they do need man. The cities He's sending these people to, the cities they're going to enter, the houses they're going to enter, They need them to come. They need them to be there. And they need those men to know they got something to give. So what about us who have it to give and give it? If they don't receive you, he says, receive who? Yeah. If they don't receive you coming like this, you got two choices. One is you came wrong, or you came right. And if you came right and they don't receive it, then shake the dust off your feet. Take nothing of what they have with you. Don't take their doubt. Don't take their cursing. Don't take their unforgiveness. Don't take their rejection of the truth with you. It will be better for Sodom and Gomorrah. Oh, my goodness. Did not turn out good for Sodom and Gomorrah. And that's the better choice in this verse. It would be my desire never to say these things, never to tell you these things. I would love to just be the guy that gets to tell you the happy-go-lucky stuff. And this is the most happy stuff I know, that you have blessing to receive and you have blessing to give. You have welcome to receive and you have welcome to give. You see, here's the deal. The little boy lighting fires was innocent, but he didn't stay innocent. He became guilty of great hate and great anger. And it was only 6 years later. The setup for his failure was cast. It was in stone. My path was carved out for me after that little 12-year-old boy. I had never done anything wrong, really. I think I was 11 too, because I was younger than everybody else. It took just a few years, and I wasn't innocent any longer. I'd have never cried at court like I did when I was 11. I was turned by bad people and became bad people. Hurt people so that a hurt person would hurt people. And it just goes on, compounded upon compounded upon compounded. Well, that is true, and that is exactly how it works. And everyone in this room should know that, or you're in denial. And if you can accept that, then you should know that healed people heal people who heal people. Blessed people bless people who bless people. Welcoming people who are welcome other people who welcome other people. People who are served serve people who serve. And it just goes on and on. And the King is here. And we get his blessing, and we get his welcome, and we get his peace, or we don't. And if we don't, the very dust of our life should be shaken off your feet. You should run from people who don't have these things. And if you don't have them, you should run to people who do have them. You want to know how to be an electrician? Hang around electricians. Ask one of them to teach you. You want to know how to lay carpet? Don't learn from me. I've only seen it done. What about Bob? He's forgotten more about laying carpet than I've ever known.
That's right.
You follow that? Yeah. You want to be a brain surgeon? Baby, do not ask me to operate on your brain. Your spirit? Yeah. I got something to teach you about the spiritual world. I got something to teach you about peace and about confidence of faith, about the life journey of love. I got a lot to teach you about that. You want to learn about how to be a person who teaches others the culture of Jesus Christ? Stay with me. Listen up. My religion will not allow me to have a relationship with God. My relationship with God is constantly at war trying to keep me from having a religion. And so it's a daily battle to stay out of religion and stick with absolute relationship and faith. John the Apostle, called the Beloved, he's the guy that in these books is always found laying on Jesus' chest. and calling himself the disciple that Jesus loves. Yeah, he had a good self-image. I recommend you read his words. If you can't love God in the people he lives in that you can see, then you can't say you love God whom you can't see. If you can't see people and begin to know who is worthy, then you can't say you love God because you don't know how he's worthy. You can't be worthy if you can't recognize God. John wrote these things because there was a Christian message that sin doesn't affect your soul. That Jesus cleansed it. Nothing you do affects your soul. And he was writing these letters. He wrote four things. He wrote the Gospel of John and 3 epistles. And he was writing them to combat this idea that sin doesn't affect my soul. He was angry. How can you say you know God and continue in sin? He said, you are a liar and the truth is not in you. How can you say you love God when you can't, when there are people who clearly are worthy, people who are clearly worthy of your blessing, clearly worthy of your peace, clearly worthy to receive, for they have given their life to him and he lives in them. And if you can't recognize that, how can you say you know him? You can't see him in others. So last week I told you that in my team, I tell them, scrutinize me. Look carefully. Judge me harshly if you want to. But find out whether I do know or don't know. And then if you decide I do, come with me. I am always looking at them. Do I see God in them? Do I see his purposes in them? Is the king present? Is the kingdom of heaven here? He's always here, but do they receive it? Is the kingdom here? Is the king here? Is he changing you? Are you done being changed? No. Do you need no more altars? No. One of the hardest things about pastoring is that people don't go forward to receive. People don't do anything to receive. And it's like, he has everything. That's right. No matter how much you think you have, no matter how much I think I've achieved or how far I think I've gone, no matter how far down the road I think I am from where I was, I need more. That's right. Constantly afflicted by the unbelief of the world. The dust of the world is always blowing in my window. It's always sticking to my shoes. And if I want to be a man who can give peace and give blessing and give greeting of welcome to the kingdom of heaven, then I need to try to keep the dust of the last situation off my feet. I need to be continually vacuuming the old dust of unbelief off of me. I need to be a man who can inquire who is worthy and give them what God wants them to have. You need to be a person that can judge correctly whether people can receive your blessing and receive your welcome and receive your peace. And you need to give it freely, because freely it's been given to you. We need to respond to him. It's a daily journey. I'm trying to think of the year. I think it was early 79 or maybe it was 78. I had a job shut down and I went to work at a nursery. Okai Nursery on Bradshaw Road in Sacramento. It goes on for miles and miles and miles. And I took a job loading trucks. And I remember my life was transformed by a challenge I was given on a Sunday morning service where a guy preached on practicing the presence of Jesus. And I just had a download. We were actually working 20-hour shifts. I only lasted 30 days from sheer exhaustion. I blacked out before my job called me back and said, okay, these jobs are on. I was the foreman. And I had to go work. I just went and worked for a month while we waited for these permits to be reissued. And I went and worked, and they were 20-hour shifts, loading plants on semis. I mean, it was like Groundhog's Day. I mean, it was every day the same. And I remember taking that sermon to heart. So I started to break the monotony. I started practicing the presence of Jesus. This line of boxes is on a conveyor, and I just put Jesus on this line of boxes. He's sitting there talking to me. Me and him are just talking like crazy all day long. We're just talking while I'm bringing that conveyor and loading those racks and moving to the next truck and loading that. And when I'm done with this one, I go, oh, Jesus, I got to do that one now. Could you move over here, please, so I can do these? I'm talking to him like, I mean, it is like all day long, 20 hours straight. I must have been delirious from the length of it. But practicing, when I got to my truck, I would, in those days we didn't have the buttons, I'd go unlock his door and open it. Let him in, close it, come open my door, get in. I would show him, I'd open the doors in restaurants. Well, I didn't go to restaurants, it was 4 hours, I raced to sleep. Anyway, I'd open the door, let him in the house, always honoring him, always talking correctly. What was really funny was near the end, when all of these Asian women who never spoke a word of English ever during the day, you never knew what they were saying. I never knew they were talking about me until one of the guys said, they're just talking about you, that crazy man who's constantly talking while he's working, like as if he's talking to someone, who actually steps back and allows an invisible friend to go by. So I did it for 30 days. And I'm telling you, here I'm 40 years later. I don't know, you can count. 78. Oh, it's 40 years. 40 years later, I still have that incredible presence where when I get in my truck, I just have a sense that he's sitting there. It lasted that long. When I'm anywhere in my life, I have this awareness that he's with me. And I'm telling you, he is, regardless of whether we do this mind thing or not, whether we practice this or not. We should understand that he's with us. There's nothing done in secret that isn't revealed. There's nothing done in my mind that isn't known. And what matters and doesn't matter? Well, I think we should figure that out. He says here, inquire who's worthy. Well, would anyone look closely at my life and decide I'm worthy? Would they yours? Every day of my life, good morning, Jesus. I want to be worthy today. I want to be worthy of what you've done for me. See, for me, that's what it is. It's worthy for what he's already done. Right. I think that we live in a Christian world that it's all about what's going to happen. And I just love what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen too much. I just know that whatever does happen, I want him with me. That's it. I want the good news. The kingdom of heaven is with you. I want that message every day of my life. I want to remind myself, hey, what we're doing today, we're building a house. That really isn't what we're doing today. We're living in the kingdom. We're walking with the king. We're doing what the king wants. Every day I place it on the table. You want what I'm doing today, or you want me to do something else? Who's for me today to deliver this blessing of peace? Who's for me today to welcome into my life? Who's for me today to give what I have to? Who is it? Who have you brought into my life? Who have you sent me to? Are they receiving it? Every once in a while I have to have a conversation with someone that says, you're not getting it, you're rejecting it. I got to let you go. Almost always I let them go by telling them, I know a lot of people who've decided what you've decided and it hasn't worked out for them. In fact, I don't know very many people that have decided what you're deciding and had it work out for them. They usually doesn't. I feel a need to tell them, but you got to let them go. They got to wander through waterless places until they remember and they come back. Right. That's right. Let me just tell you what this peace is, that we're supposed to give them a blessing of peace. And the blessing of peace is this. It's really a strange, I don't do a lot of definitions, but once in a while I do them for you. So worthy, I gave you, and now I want to give you peace. Worthy was due a reward, deserving of a reward. And peace is this. It's really strange. It's to join, to be one, or to make one again. I was like, did I look up the wrong word? But this is Christianity in a nutshell. It's bringing us back together in forgiveness and judgment and causing us to reunite as brothers and sister, as family, as body. The way my hand is connected to my arm by my wrist. Connected. My body is at great peace about this fact, that what my brain wants to grab, my hand can do it. If my hand were crippled, I would have no peace that could happen. You know what I'm talking about? Till you break an arm or lose use of a limb, you don't know what I'm talking about. But once you do, you realize, I can't grab it. I can't get it. I can't bring it to me. So he's saying, give your blessing of peace. Allow them to become one with you. If they don't receive you, remove your blessing of peace and say, you can't be one with me. People who receive peace become people who give peace. People who give blessing, receive blessing, are people who give blessing. That's what comes of it. That's what grows from it. Are you following me? Yes. Everything in that verse is what you decide. Whatever city you come to, find out who's worthy. Give them what you have, which we like to say, God, give them what you have. He's saying, give them what you have. And it would be great to know you have it before you try to give it. Amen?